Carl Jung, one of the deepest minds in the history of psychology, observed a phenomenon that both fascinated and terrified him. He called it one of the most challenging transformations in human nature. It involved people we often perceive as gentle, kind, and sensitive, those we now call empaths. They feel deeply, care intensely, and absorb the emotions of everyone around them. But one day, something within them snaps. That moment changes everything. Jung saw this pattern repeatedly in his practice. These people weren't just victims, they were quietly building an internal strength, waiting for the moment they could fully awaken. He called them the awakened ones, individuals who integrated their shadow, the darker parts of themselves society taught them to suppress, transformed not just their lives, but the way we understand human psychology. Here's what Jung discovered and why it still unsettles psychologists today. The kindest, most sensitive people aren't weak. Their power lies hidden, waiting to be realized. Patients would arrive at Jung's Zurich clinic carrying deep wounds. They had been systematically undermined by those they loved and trusted. Bruises, heartbreak, depression. They absorbed it all. They apologized for existing. Yet behind this apparent fragility, something extraordinary was happening. Jung noticed these empaths were quietly observing and cataloging every detail of the people around them. Each word, each gesture, each hidden reaction was recorded in their minds. Their perception was like a strategist's war room, patiently mapping the emotional patterns of those who had hurt them. And then, something would trigger a shift. Often, it was betrayal. Not just any betrayal, but a profound one, from someone they trusted completely. When this happened, observers expected chaos, tears, anger, emotional collapse. But what emerged instead was unnerving calm. The empath didn't break, they awakened. They spoke the truth with surgical precision. Every manipulation, every lie, every hidden agenda was exposed, not with cruelty, but with clarity. Their abusers were unprepared. They had counted on emotional chaos, but instead faced a mind that saw everything and understood everything. Jung realized he wasn't treating victims, he was witnessing the rise of hidden psychological geniuses. These empaths' genius lay in emotional intelligence, the ability to analyze human behavior faster and more accurately than most. Modern science confirms this. High-sensitivity brains process social and emotional data with remarkable speed and precision. Society, however, often mislabels these gifts as weakness. Each time an empath speaks their truth, they are dismissed as overly sensitive. And yet the truth is relentless. It does not disappear. And when the right moment comes, that truth becomes power. Jung noticed another remarkable effect. Once awakened, empaths no longer acted impulsively. They didn't rage, didn't cry uncontrollably. They calculated, they observed, and they responded strategically. He called this stage shadow integration under extreme duress, the moment when anger, pain, and intuition merge into conscious clarity. Post-awakening, empaths start reshaping their environment. They leave abusive relationships with precision. They cut toxic family ties without drama. Careers and personal goals are pursued strategically. Jung observed what he called selective empathy, deeply caring, but intentional about where they direct their emotional energy. And the world notices. People who once walked over them sense something fundamentally changed. Those who are authentic feel safe, drawn to the clarity the empath now radiates.
When an empath awakens, their abilities reach a level beyond ordinary perception. This is no longer just sensitivity. It is the capacity to understand entire systems of human behavior, to predict motives, and to navigate relationships with precision. Jung described them as psychological strategists, people who had absorbed betrayal and pain so meticulously that they could now wield their awareness with clarity and control. Imagine a world where everyone around you is an open book. Every subtle gesture, micro-expression, tone shift, it all becomes data. The empath collects this data, not for revenge, but to understand, to determine who is safe to trust and who poses a risk. Jung was astonished. These individuals didn't merely endure abuse, they studied it. They had memorized triggers, vulnerabilities, and patterns of manipulation. And then when the breaking point arrived, they applied this knowledge with surgical precision, not to destroy, but to protect themselves and create clarity. Modern neuroscience confirms Jung's observations. Highly sensitive individuals process emotional information faster and more accurately than most, making them natural pattern recognizers. Society, however, often mislabels these gifts as weakness. Every time an empath speaks the truth, they are told they are too sensitive or overreacting. And yet, the truth is relentless. It does not disappear. And when the right moment comes, that truth becomes power. Jung noticed another remarkable effect. Once awakened, empaths no longer acted impulsively. They didn't rage, didn't cry uncontrollably. They calculated, they observed, and they responded strategically. He called this stage shadow integration under extreme duress, the moment when anger, pain, and intuition merge into conscious clarity. Post-awakening, empaths start reshaping their environment. They leave abusive relationships with precision. They cut toxic family ties without drama. Careers are pursued strategically, with decisions rooted in clarity and perception. Jung observed what he called selective empathy, deeply caring, but intentional about where they direct their emotional energy. And the world responds. People who once took advantage of them feel uneasy. Those who are authentic feel safe, inspired by integrity and clarity. Jung noted a concept he called the predator instinct. Manipulative individuals can sense when their usual tactics fail. They avoid integrated empaths, instinctively aware that their influence no longer works.
When the empath reaches full integration, their life is transformed in every dimension. But this is not the end of the journey. This is the beginning of conscious mastery. Pause 1.2 seconds. Jung described this phase as the stage of application and service. The empath no longer just observes or protects themselves, they actively shape their environment with awareness and precision. Pause 1.2 seconds. Every interaction becomes intentional. They know who deserves their energy and who does not. They act not from impulse, but from clarity. Pause 1 second. In relationships, this means recognizing manipulators within minutes. Pause 1 second. Healthy relationships flourish. Pause 0.8 seconds. Emotional predators are neutralized, not with confrontation, but with strategic boundaries. Pause 1.2 seconds. In professional life, they excel because they can read unspoken needs, anticipate challenges, and make decisions with unmatched precision. Pause 1.2 seconds. And the most extraordinary part? They retain their capacity for love. Pause 1 second. They care deeply, but wisely. Pause 1 second. Their kindness is intentional, not exploitable. Pause 1.2 seconds. Jung called this the balanced warrior, someone who combines sensitivity with strategic strength. Pause 1.2 seconds. Someone capable of immense compassion while remaining impervious to manipulation. Pause 1.2 seconds. The world around them shifts naturally. Pause 1 second. Toxic family members face reality. Pause 0.8 seconds. Manipulative colleagues lose their influence. Pause 0.8 seconds. Authentic people are drawn closer, inspired by integrity and clarity. Pause 1.2 seconds. This is what Jung termed the empath's mirror effect. The mere presence of an integrated empath reveals hidden truths without confrontation.